going on.
No. Thank you. I really appreciate. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate this, but I gotta say, I have no idea why anyone would want to Q&A me, but it's an honor. Thanks.
Oh, we're just having fun. And like, look at the people in our audience. You're definitely going to recognize some. It's a pretty great group of people that just wanna listen to. I mean, so kind of structurally, we've loaded up a bunch of questions. Want to start with some just open-ended ones and get to know you a little bit. You and I met at RWRI. I don't even know if you remember it. We went out for beers as a group to that place with like the long tables, kind of like a pub kind of place. I forget what it was called, but we walked there. Yeah. That place was good.
Oh yeah, the German thing.
And that was fun. We were there for a couple hours. And you gave a really great lecture, and we've been Twitter buddies ever since. And you're in Malaysia right now?
Yeah, this is where I was born and raised. First 25 years, so yeah. Oh no, I just gave away my age. But,
So, Trishank, welcome to Fat Tony's, first of all. I know that you've been a member of Fat Tony's for quite a while. You're quite active on the Happy Hour and text channels. So, firstly, we just ask people to give a little bit of background about themselves. I know your website describes you as a computer scientist, a RWRI alumnus and instructor, and a physical culturist. I'm quite interested as to what physical culturist means in that context. Is that Tony made up?
No, that's a fancy term. Physical culture is a fancy term I borrowed from the art of manliness. I think it's what guys. It's what guys like us used to describe themselves, right? Back in the 1900s, this is how they used to, back in the day, the you see them all over Twitter these days, right? What do they call themselves now? I don't know. The manly man guys. They teach you how to get in a coaching program, all that stuff. Back in the day, they just called themselves physical culturists. Very fancy term. That's it.
So what makes a physical culturist? Like you got to lift, right? Well, what else is that? So, yeah. Is there other? What else goes into it?
Barbells depends. Actually, I think the way I found that term was probably from reading an article Erwan Lecour wrote, if I'm getting his name right, An Art of Manliness. You could do any variety of things. You could be lifting Hindu maces. You could be deadlifting barbells. You could be doing move nat, right? Whatever, as long as you're consistent at it, right? Kind of like Nassim, the way Nassim does math, or a programmer does coding. As long as you're consistent, I suppose you could call yourself that. Anyway, it's just a fancy, pretentious term for doing physical stuff.
Sure.
So you like those Victorian guys with the big twirly moustaches?
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
So we mentioned computer science in the introduction. Is that something that you studied at university?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I do. But a lot of it was also very autodidactic. Really, sure. Wow, I'm surprised at the number of people. Holy crap! Now I'm freaking out. Yeah. So I went to school in Malaysia.
To catch everyone up, you haven't eaten in 6 days, so anything flies here. This is a happy hour. It's midnight in Europe, or it's 1 a.m. in Europe. It's 6 p.m. in California, dude. Like, I think you should just lose the filter and just let it fly, man.
Yeah, there we go. I'm good thing I'm not the only sober one here. What do you call So I went to school in Malaysia, right? Like I said, first 25 years here. Went to school just like everyone else. Did my degree in software engineering. But I taught myself a lot. What I think separated me from my peers back then was, and listen, everyone's got to do this, right? People ask me, how do you learn programming? There's no shortcut. There's no learning it in 21 days. You just have to do the work. You have to be willing to fail a lot. You you have to learn from trial and error quite a lot. You have to crash the plane endless number of times and learn humility that way. Like, what did I get wrong this time? And through endless seg faults, which is a way of crashing a program, crashing a computer. And then like Sebastian alluded, I went to NYU after that. Shortly after that, not too long after that, I did my master's in computer science there. And then I made a mistake of going to grad school back again. I was in the industry for a while after that, working in research labs and startups and things like that. And then I made the mistake, like I said, of going back to grad school, where I worked in security, and then now I'm back in the industry where I couldn't be happier. So that's the too long didn't read version of.
What are you doing in security at the moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. You guys might have heard of the SolarWinds attack, no? Back in December, which came out of the sort of out of the blue. People were freaking out because it was around Christmas, and rightfully so. This is the sort of stuff that this is the sort of stuff that my research lab and I had been warning people about for years, since I was working on basically this area during my grad research. And the problem is this. A lot of you, might be doing programming in your amateur or professional capacity, but think about this. You almost always use someone else's software, right? And you pull someone else's libraries as part of your own code. And you're pulling it into your computer from places like the Python package index or whatnot. Everyone uses this centralized well. So you can kind of think of it like the New York City of a programming, right? Everyone goes there. It's a shared well. Now, what happens if someone breaks into this well and poisons the well? This used to be kind of a Hollywood kind of scenario. People were like, yeah, that's something that might happen in Die Hard 5 maybe, but real life we haven't seen it. Classic, just because it hasn't happened, it ain't gonna happen, right? Until the pandemic or something like that, or the Suez Canal, which, what the hell? I mean, I'm away from Twitter for a week, and then I come back and I see all these memes about containers. I'm like, what the hell is going on? But see, that's not Black Swan. This is the problem I'm talking about. Is not a Black Swan. Think about it. Like this is imaginable. It is not something complete. It's a gray swan. It's just a question of when. Even back then, we were saying things like it's a question of when, not if. So if someone breaks into a shared server, a repository, they're able to poison the well and compromise millions of computers all at once. It's just such a powerful leverage. All attackers have to do with the asymmetry. The problem with defenders is this: it's kind of like defending a dam, or like a leak can come up anytime. And all attackers have to do is find one leak and break the whole dam, right? And so as a defender, so how do you solve this problem? And so I helped to research and develop this thing called the update framework. Tough for short, terrible pun. I didn't come up with it, in my defense. But basically, it's
what is it? What is it called? What is it called again? I want to make sure I got the. I want to make sure I got the pun.
TUF, tough.
Oh, okay, got it.
It's terrible. But it's a security system that's designed with the assumption that you're gonna get hacked. It's just a matter of time. Forget about it. Don't even try to fight the assumption. Just roll with it. Great. This is actually a liberating assumption, because now you're actually more at peace with the universe. So a lot of people have this mistaken idea, and in security, it's all about, yes, finding the holes are important, and patching them and is of course important. But the point is, you should don't forget to design your systems to be what we call compromise resilient. It's gonna get hacked, so just design it so that you know that a hack is not gonna be game over for you. Kind of like designing a bank to be, someone's going to break in
anti-fragility. Right. I was just saying classic
not Black Swan. Remember, it's a gray swan.
Well,
not even anti-fragility.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Please. No, please.
We're not trying to design an anti-fragile system. In security, here's the problem, right? In cybersecurity, at least, it's kind of like the airplane industry. We don't know how to design programs that improve themselves. They don't become stronger. you need humans to patch the holes. You see, so the process is anti-fragile. Learning from your mistakes and patching those leaks and sharing the knowledge to the rest of the industry. Just like an airplane, right? An airplane by itself is not anti-fragile. It is at best robust. Same thing here. You want to design a robust security system. So that's the idea here. We design a security system so that if someone breaks into your shared well, it's not game over for you. At best, attackers can tamper with some packages, but not all of them. And if that's the best you can do, that's great. That's better than what we have right now, which is it's either all or nothing. And it's really nothing when someone breaks into your server. So sorry, coming back to SolarWinds, what a remarkable attack that was. In December, someone broke into a company and well, it wasn't in December, it was in December that they found out. Long story short, companies such as FireEye and Microsoft found out that they were owned, as they called it in security lingo, meaning someone had broken into their networks. And how? By using this company's software. And that company, SolarWinds, unfortunately didn't realize that these are probably not amateurs. These are professionals. Everyone thinks that they're nation-state attackers. I'm not going to name names. We don't know. I don't want to speculate without confirmation. But someone had spent months. Allegedly. No, but we know the facts. The facts are the group had spent months infiltrating this company and poisoning their compiler. The compiler is the software that takes your source code and transforms it into a binary that runs on other computers. And they had managed to insert malicious source code in there. Sorry, this might be going into too.
No, this is.
But anyway, the point is
fascinating. I love this.
The point is
the hack, man.
the so-called Hollywood Black Swan. Sorry, people call it Black Swan. It's not. But this gray Swan scenario happened, right? And now people take it much more seriously. But the bad news is that this happened, right? This can happen to anybody. Listen, like Microsoft got affected. They had their source code stolen. Tens of thousands of organizations, including DHS and other government agencies. It was a veritable. So that's the bad news. And think about it. There are people willing to spend months hiding in your corporate network. Very good at not getting caught. They almost didn't get caught. They got caught pretty much by mistake. So there are professionals out there willing to do this for a day job. Anyway, the good news is that we have open source security systems that can help you fix this by basically making, like I said, like this, making your airplane more robust.
Hey, can I ask you a question as a security guy, as a cybersecurity guy?
Yeah.
Is there, off the top of your head, is there kind of like a vector that you think is being under risked right now? Like whether in our daily lives or in like an infrastructure type level, I can't help but think about Texas and like the grid going down, and because it was kind of like a lot of argument about what exactly happened, but it was kind of like a 1, 2, 3 of calamitous effects.
Yeah, I would say so. Previously, it used to be software updates, which is sort of like my
you talk about the packages.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean. Yeah, I worry that there are apps, running on our computers and our phones that have been backdoored and we don't even realize. But, it's one thing to compromise your laptop or your phone or your tablet, right? Sure, your privacy gets affected, maybe your security to some extent. What I'm really worried about is cyber physical systems, like cars. They're connecting more and more cars to the internet.
Tesla's about to go full autopilot.
Yeah, so imagine if someone breaks into Tesla. It's this nearly happened, right? There was an insider attack. I forget. Elon Musk talked about it too, and they managed to catch it just because that employee was honest. Someone was trying to bribe that employee, and this actually happened to Twitter. This actually happened to Twitter. Saudi Arabia paid a
I
few
bet this is
engineers in
happening all day, every day, man. I bet this is happening all the time. These kinds of things.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And the thing is, how many do we know about, right? The good ones don't get caught, or at least the lucky ones. So think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my nightmare, and here's the funny thing. The US government has talked about things like pandemics before. Joanne is here, no? And they have paid money to have preparation plans for all of this shit. But they didn't use it. So I've heard the US government to this day, so many people talk about what happens if the electric grid in America gets hacked. But I bet you if it actually gets hacked, they will still be inadequately prepared because that's just the nature of human beings. We can see things
it's like
coming
Texas, man.
and still not.
You know,
Texas was not
pretty
even an
unprepared.
active. Yeah, but that wasn't even a hack. That was, well, I suppose you could call that nature hacking us. But yeah, I suppose you could put it that way.
Yeah. Oh no, but I was referring to the preparedness. Like if the grid went down countrywide here or in the UK or Malaysia, I mean, it'd be bad.
It would be. Yeah.
Sorry to take this to a dark place.
They're all. No, that's that's what security people do all day. I'm a paranoid guy by nature. That's why the pandemic didn't surprise me, right? It's yeah. Malaysia used to be a more paranoid place, by the way. Speaking of pandemics, we have had controlled things like the Nipah virus and H1N1 and all sorts of other things, but somehow when it came to the coronavirus, even we messed up. So I was very disappointed by that.
Sorry to hear that.
No, thanks. But things are better now. It was like this. It's gone up, and now we have vaccinations and everything. So it's good. Things could have been better, but
do you miss New York?
It is what it is.
Are you coming back to New York?
Do I miss New York? Oh yeah, I miss the old.
We're wearing the shirt.
Remember, like you said, we had a. Yeah, we exactly. This is my gym stuff. But this is. I mean, New York City was great, right? When things were working beautifully. Yeah, sure, there were some crappy things about it, but that was the downside you were willing to accept. Yeah, I do, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. I'm long New York. I think it'll come back, but the city needs to learn a few lessons from this pandemic. No question about it. What about you guys? Yeah, sorry.
What do you? Well, I'm not in California. We keep going in and out of lockdown, but at least the weather's nice. So yeah, but I'm in LA where it hasn't been too bad. I think New York got hit quite a bit worse. LA's kind of more spread out, so it's a little easier. Like it's not more houses than apartments and things like that. Yeah, but I was happy to I had recently moved from like the center of LA where I was living in just a little apartment a couple of years ago to a place down about 20 miles south in a town called Long Beach. And way more square footage for the dollar, like close to the I can walk to the beach, kind of like a lot more, kind of quieter. And I was just like, when the pandemic hit, I was so glad to be somewhere like this, as opposed to kind of in the more urban space I'd been. I would have gone nuts.
Yeah, I mean, so exactly that, and then.
Oh, sorry, Seth.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
What do you call? Yeah, you see the downsides of cities, unfortunately, during times like this, right? During a squeeze like this, like the Suez Canal.
Yeah,
like the pandemics, and but this is not the first time in history. Cities have always collapsed or come along and gone, but cities by themselves are Lindy. One city may come and go, but the you can't help but build up centralization like this. Again, I think it's just human nature.
Yeah. And some places.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously by natural. by natural formation, lend themselves to like being good places for cities. Usually because they're ports or something. So there's extra lendiness there.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm happy to be barbelling it between, I've always wanted to do this. Kind of weird that it took the pandemic to do this, but things had to line up. So
good. Hey, I got a question about the Suez Canal. Sorry, Seb. I just want to watch one more question and then move to the audience. Because it's so topical, and you're a complexity guy. Like, tell us what you're seeing, man. Was this a black swan? Was this like a totally predictable swan?
Like I said, I really didn't know about it until yesterday. I don't know too much about it. I won't pretend to be an expert on it.
Pretty much just the ship got stuck. The big ship got stuck. That's pretty much it, and they can't get it out.
How do you manage to do that? The poor guy who got this stuck. Oh God, I feel so bad for them. Can you imagine? Heads must have rolled for that one. Again, like first. Yeah, exactly. I wonder if anyone saw this coming. Someone must have warned about this possibility. I bet you it's a hidden report somewhere, right deep inside a 1,000-page report. Everyone said, yeah, sure, Hollywood scenario. Like the equivalent of someone like me in that industry. Like I'm sure someone would have talked about it, and then now it finally happened. And yeah, that's like Dear Sullivan's attack. Yeah, there we go.
Well, the ship is so big.
The Suez Canal.
The ship is so big that to me, it's like it feels like eventually a long enough timeline. I mean, they said it was the wind, but if you allow those bigger and bigger ships, I kind of feel like it's going to happen eventually.
So I can't talk about the Suez Canal. The hell do I know about like actual shipping ports and containers? I work with computer containers, which are a different story. But we have equivalent things happening in computer networks.
Mm-hmm.
Like people seeing too much spike in their network traffic, not having foreseen it, and then there goes your server, there goes your beautiful service. But there are things you can do about it. Like people like Netflix, I think pioneered. I think partly by reading Nassim's ideas. They came up with the idea of what they call chaos engineering. So they've got a computer program called Chaos Monkey or Chaos Gorilla, depending on how big you want the shit show to be, I think. Mm-hmm. That would actively. So let's say you're running your service like Netflix on the cloud on someone else's computers and infrastructure you don't control, and you want to be robust against things like the Suez Canal happening to your service. How do you do it? Well, think about it. If you throw humans at a problem, they're only going to be so good at coming up with devious scenarios. But you throw this computer program that just goes absolutely batshit and does terrible things like shutting down half of your servers. And then you see how resilient or robust you are at staying up. That's why Netflix is really, really hard to take down. Have you noticed that how good Netflix is even in terrible networks? It is remarkable. They've done a great technical job. Partly because they make the assumption things are gonna break. How do we design our services? How do we find these things before they actually happen? Kind of like running, war game kind of scenarios, right? Let's do this endless war game scenarios before the actual war thing, and then find out how to improve our software.
Yeah.
But I guess when you talk about software, when we talk about software, I'm a developer myself. Right? When we talk about chaos monkeys or testing, with software, it's infinitely replicable. You can run lots of different scenarios concurrently and just spin a new server up. But when you talk about physical systems like this Suez Canal being blocked up, there's only one of them, and it has real world implications.
True. But hopefully after this, they're paying people to come up with nightmare scenarios, and it's not fun, but someone's got to do it.
They didn't limit their downside.
A few paranoid guys to come up with what looks like.
This doesn't even seem like a far-fetched scenario, given how big that thing is. This feels like almost kind of predictable. Sorry, I'll stop talking about the Suez Canal.
No, but it's a hilarious meme. Like I've seen people in the software industry running. I've seen friends from Docker make fun of it because containers. But yeah.
So a phrase that we see sort of bandied about on Twitter a lot is "only the paranoid survive," and obviously that's going back to sort of caveman ancestors, and seeing a shadow in a bush, and it's better to run than risk being eaten by a tiger.
Yeah, and Nassim has got paranoia gets a bad name, and there's two kinds of paranoia. One is, I suppose, is what you would call the there's a word for it. Just the bad kind of paranoia. Someone who's worried about everything. I suppose like the equivalent of hypochondriac. That's the useless kind of paranoia. That's why paranoia gets a bad name. The good kind of paranoia worries only about things that would take you out.
Mm-hmm.
What would be ruin for you, and those are not all problems. Like, don't worry about the small stuff. Worry about the few classes of events that would wipe you out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I suppose everyone should have a chief paranoia officer in that sense. But again, it's hard to communicate. Like working in security, I've seen this myself. It's really hard to communicate to people why they should worry about something that hasn't even happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, try doing this for a living. Like, sometimes it can wear you down. Like trust me, you gotta take this seriously, because someday it might happen. It might not happen. Great. Fingers crossed. Doesn't happen. Fantastic.
They're not
like
going
the
to worry.
pandemic.
They're not going to worry about it until they get like the pandemic, until it hits, man. And it's like, and then when they get a hack, all of a sudden it's a big deal. But Netflix knew that their uptime was their lifeblood. Like if they had bad performance, people wouldn't convert. And so that Chaos Monkey thing is brilliant because also it forced them to think anti-fragilely too. I mean, hopefully I'm using this right, but in the sense of they had to start looking for solutions that would solve, like you said, anything that happened, as opposed to trying to find individual holes to plug. Right? Like the Chaos Monkey would literally like delete whole pages and do all kinds of shit.
Exactly.
I would actually love to read a book about that sometime or something like that. Wonder if the new Netflix book gets into it.
I don't know whether people like Netflix, and I'm sure in fact there's a startup now called Gremlin that would do chaos engineering for you. But I think there's a workshop about it, thing called the Workshop on Chaos Engineering, I think. No? And I think they've invited Nassim to talk once. Pretty sure. We'll have to see.
Hey Sebastian, did you say you had some questions?
Yeah, talking about injecting chaos and chaos monkeys, why don't we inject a bit of randomness into this conversation and open it up to questions?
Oh no.
Great transition, man.
I'm prepared.
All right. Okay, Matt.
So yeah, we asked people to write their questions down last week. We've had a huge response. Some really wacky and crazy stuff in here. I think you're going to like a few of these. I'm just having a quick look through now. What we'll do, guys, if you're on the call, if you're here, we'll unmute you and ask you to speak to Trishank. But if you're not, I'll read it out for you if you're absent. So first question is about IQ. So we're just going to go
over.
Good. Thanks. How are you,
Benjamin?
Pretty good. I was wondering if you're having a conversation with somebody who really believes in IQ, and they have some kind of self-worth tied to it. They're really kind of stubborn on it. What's your best non-technical explanation and argument of your position to persuade them? Like, how do you go about that usually when you're talking to people who are not as technically literate in the subject matter as maybe you are? What do you say?
Great question.
Well, two things. Thanks for the question. Well, the first thing is, I don't think I would try to convince individuals anymore, especially if their self-worth is tied to it. When someone is invested in it so deeply, there's nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. You can try if they're open to it, but am I going to go out and try to actively convert them? No. But if they ask me about it, I might. And if they asked me, I would say, what would I say? I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, let me maybe like break it down. Sorry. Go ahead.
Go for it.
No, I was going to say like, what would be like your kind of like logical argument, maybe if you were arguing against it? Say Raphael challenged you.
Yeah. So
Benjamin is a hard one.
Raphael challenged.
So
clearly, people tend to specialize. Clearly, people are good at some things. Whether they look like they are naturally, and we're talking about mental capabilities here. Let's leave aside physical capabilities. Yes, I mean, over the course of our lifetimes, we specialize and we become good at things like mathematics and whatnot. Whatever you need at the skills you need to acquire for your craft, right? Whatever you're doing, whatever you happen to be enjoying. So here's what I'm claiming. I'm claiming that despite our differences, despite our mental differences and what looks like an unbridgeable gap. So take someone like Wolfram, who looks like he's unreachable. What we know from computation, and then that's my bread and butter, and I can't help but look at this from a computational angle. Is that we know from computation that if you think of, and I'm not even going to go into the philosophical rabbit hole of whether humans are computers or not. I'm just saying, just work with the assumption. Just assume that this is true.
Sure.
That humans are computable. What we know is that, and look at computers. Whether you have an Android or an iPhone, whether you have an Intel or an ARM or whatnot, they can all run the same programs, right? Like both of our, whether you have an Android, iPhone, we can both run Twitter. There's no fundamental difference in that sense. The hardware may be different. There might be some hardware differences. Some one computer might be particularly faster at doing something. But my point is, the software is the same, though. You can run exactly the same software, and this extends to human beings too. If we're computable, is that we're capable of the same, no less and no more range of computation. Right? We're capable of having the same kind of thoughts. In theory, in principle.
What's an example? What's an example of this? Now, like human computing a human.
Computing a human. So when I say humans are computable, I should clarify this. I'm not saying that humans are robots. It's complicated. What I'm trying to say is that what are computers? When I'm saying that humans are computable, maybe this is worth spending some time on a little bit, not too much. Make sure.
Let's get into it, man.
Try to make sure that I don't run overboard.
I want to. If not now, when? You know what I mean? This is the group for it.
Life's too short.
So humans. So talk about computable humans, because I love this idea, and it's also very topical. I mean, Elon Musk has got his Neuralink thing. Like, I think we were getting into this.
Elon Musk. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about Turing.
Sure.
Turing came up with computers. Why did we come up with computers? Think about it. Why did we come up with computers? Partly to try to reproduce what humans can do. So we're not actually denigrating human beings when we're saying that humans are computable. We're actually trying to copy what human beings can do. Turing was saying, if I had to tell another human, if I had to tell a machine, what is it to when a human is said to be able to compute something, some number, right? Think about it. You need to go through a series of steps. And this is what we're telling the machine to do. The machine is like a very dumb, like a human who knows 5 basic things. And then, so anyway, my point is, computers were designed to sort of copy what human beings can do at its most fundamental basic level. Maybe that doesn't make too much sense, but we'll explore it iteratively. How about that? Because I don't want to go too.
No worries. No worries.
To go back to the point, so my point is that we're all capable of basically the same mental capabilities, like our hardware, but to use it, it's a crude metaphor. Because the human brain is actually more complicated. So it's an interesting hardware software thing. It's a machine it's a hardware that can reprogram itself. No man-made hardware can do that, not yet at least. But anyway, the point is we need to think about, so in that sense, we're all equivalent. We're all capable of running pretty much the same software. Now the question is, why is it that your software and mine are radically different? Think about that. Focus on that. Change your software. You're not born with this destiny with your IQ as your number, and this is like your top speed or whatever the fuck IQ is supposed to mean. Think about how you can reprogram yourself. That's the most beautiful thing about human beings, that you can change yourself. You can make yourself
muscle
better.
memory is the thing that first comes to mind for me as an example, like as something that might be along those lines.
Yeah, exactly.
You train yourself to do a new task.
No, that's great. No, that's great. That's great. That's great. That's a good. So think about it. So someone looks faster than you. Does it mean they were born with it? No, they probably spend years practicing it in a way you never have. And that's why the neuroplasticity of the human brain, maybe that's a buzzword, but you see what I'm trying to say. The human brain, if you train a circuit to do something over and over again, it becomes faster at it. In the beginning, it was slow. You see, it had to do it purely in software. And this is the
literally burning new neural pathways, though. So there's also a literal definition for what you're doing. Yeah.
Exactly, because we do this with computers too. Wall Street guys, if they want to make a software faster, guess what they do? They don't run it on generic hardware like Intel. They take that software and literally print a specialized hardware circuit for it. Okay, but a human brain, I claim, does this can do this, without basically print new hardware circuits, and that's why some people look much faster at doing something, because they basically like printed, printed new hardware circuits for doing what other people would do on the software layer. Like I said, the human brain is like plastic hardware. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I think my internet broke off. Oh, sorry guys. I think my internet crapped out for a moment there. Yeah. Sorry, sometimes my internet craps out. Talk about a Grace one.
Yeah, we've been trying to make jokes and cover, but you're all good, man. Let us know when you're ready to go again. Got a few more questions.
Let me try video. I'm actually using my cell phone connection right now. There we go. Always have backups. I should have brought my. I should have brought my phone down.
Before I forget to mention it, that is a strong facial hair situation, by the way.
Thanks.
It's nice. Yeah.
Thank you. But this is purely mass. Otherwise, I had a long. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a question from Seb Steele, who I don't think is here tonight. So I will read it out for him. He was just talking about going back to your the human brain as a computer idea, and it's a related question really. So I just wanted to get it in now. Does the distinction hardware versus software actually make sense or mean anything when it comes to the human brain?
Yes, I think there's a meaningful distinction. So for man-made stuff, there's a much cleaner distinction between hardware and software. The human brain, for living organisms, there isn't. But that doesn't mean that you cannot make the distinction. You can, but it's much, 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 much messier. Like I said, reprogrammable hardware that reconfigures itself. It's crazy. That's awesome. Hopefully someday we figure out how to do that, but it will also be very dangerous technology.
Okay, so let's look at some of the more quirky questions that we've had on our channel. Just having a quick scroll through at the moment. So we've got one from Saad, who again I don't think is here tonight, so I'll read it out for him. Would you use Star Trek style teleportation? What if you realised that it disintegrates one individual and creates in a target destination a perfect clone with exact memories?
Oh, no.
What if that's what happens anyway with our body?
Oh, hell no. Fuck no. Why would I do that? But this reminds me of Scott Aronson's essay on what free will means. Free will means on especially from a computational point of view. Imagine if there were...
Oh, Sebastian, are you there? Are you losing Trishank a little bit?
Some... Oh no! Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, I think I got you now. Yeah.
Let me try turning off my video. That might be better. Sorry, guys.
Sure, no problem. Appreciate you you dealing with this to talk to us today, man. It's a lot of fun.
No, like I said, this is my pleasure. So the pleasure is mutual. Let's put it that way. So, but teleportation device, hell no, I wouldn't do it. I'll wait a little bit to see what happens to other people.
Okay, so next question.
Nice.
Just having to scroll through. So Greg, I think we've got on the line tonight. So Greg, we're going to unmute you and let you ask.
Greg. Spoiler alert.
Oh.
Hey Trishank, how you doing?
Hey Greg.
Hey Trishank, how's it going?
Good. Thanks. I gotta say, this is really strange. This is like the first time I've ever been on like Q&A, like a live talk show. This is hilarious. This is great. Keep it coming.
Yeah. Oh, I love this part of it. This is the most fun for me, is when we do it like a talk show. Yeah. Greg. Long time person. Greg.
Yeah,
Greg from Philadelphia. Go ahead.
Trishank, I've heard you talk about you identify yourself as a pagan, and I guess for me, I just kind of want to understand what you mean by that and how you kind of got to that point in your life.
Oh, that one's actually easy. I mean, I'm a Hindu, so I'm a natural pagan, right? It's not, unfortunately, I didn't put too much work to it. It's not like I choose to become pagan. And to me, paganism just means that polytheism is one aspect of it, right? And I suppose the second thing is animism is probably one defining feature of paganism. And the third thing is you just have a lot of rituals. That's it. That's paganism to me. Maybe there's a more sophisticated element to it, but yeah, it doesn't take much to be a pagan. I guess the hard thing. Yeah, I'm sorry. What is the yeah? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I just didn't, when I first heard you say that, I didn't know, kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, like, you were agnostic or atheistic. I was just kind of looking for some clarification.
Oh, so, yeah. I see. Yeah, okay. So I'm a pagan. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was a kid, I maybe I used to literally think the Hindu deities existed. I think the little kid did. Now I don't think that they literally exist. So I'm an atheist in that sense. I'm a combination of a pagan and an atheist. So I respect the Hindu deities, right? The pantheon. I love all the stories. I love praying to them. I love going to temples. I love following all the rituals, all the festivities. Do I literally think they exist? No, but I think they add a lot of meaning to my life. Yeah, and then on top of that, you add Nassim's interpretation of religion to it, which is that religion is this thing that keeps you humble, right? Teaches you
Mhm.
that there's something above man, whether or not it's one god or many gods. But the point is, you don't necessarily know everything. And respect nature, I suppose. That is something that every religion shares, whether you're pagan or not, I think.
Mhm. Absolutely.
That's really interesting. Made me think that paganism isn't necessarily guys, druids in robes with stones.
100%. I'll also admit that when Greg over here said pagan, and I know that this doesn't make sense, but I had a flash in my head of kind of, because I have a lot of Irish ancestors, so I was like thinking like this like Celtic pagan like Trishank, huh? With like the druid robe and things like that. But when you explain like Hinduist as like polytheism and everything, and multiple deities and stuff, like of course, yeah, totally makes sense.
Oh, I think we have literally millions of gods and goddesses. I mean, it is hilarious. You guys have got to look it up. It's a beautiful thing. Hopefully, if I convert one person into Hinduism today, my job is done. That's the secret agenda.
Okay, great. So just going to move on to the next question now. I'm conscious of time, and we've had so many great questions here. I want to make sure we can ask you as many as possible. The next one is from Tarat, and I think she's on the line. So we're gonna unmute Tarat and hand you over.
Yes, this is Sarah Lapsley. Sorry,
Hey, Sarah.
This is my Discord alter ego.
Hey.
I just had a question about your security work and kind of what you think the motivations are of the people that are doing these kind of break-ins into corporate networks and creating havoc and harm. Like, do you think they're politically motivated or paid by political entities, or whether they're kind of individual bad actors that are malicious? Like, I'm just curious, sort of, or both, sort of curious of your perspective on that.
Well, that's a great question. I think it's both. It used to be a lot of lone hackers doing this sort of thing. Clifford Stoll wrote a great book about it in the 80s, I think. He's a great personality, by the way. You need to look him up. But he wrote a book called something about cuckoo. I forget what it is, but basically catching a hacker in the U.S. government back in the 80s. But now the concern is you have a lot of political elements to it. The usual suspects are China and Russia and North Korea and Iran. And the way they take on the United States is not by taking it on physically with like missiles and so on, but using our own computing systems back against us. Because think about it, fighting someone at a distance is much easier than going there all the way and putting up with their army, their manpower, and weapons. Software is much easier leverage. You can do it from the comfort of your basement, somewhere in New Jersey maybe. But yeah, like I said, take the recent SolarWinds thing. The suspicion is that group, that bad actor group, Microsoft thinks is as big as 1,000 people. Who the hell pays 1,000 people to do nothing but this all day? Think about how scary that is. And then recently, you must have heard of the Exchange, Microsoft Exchange flaw, unfortunately, where that was a separate flaw where, again, the suspicion is China. Again, I'm not, until we have evidence, but, but the point is,
well,
these guys are taking it to a whole different level now.
I couldn't help. I read this book called The Big Picture, which was about the Sony hack where they hacked all of their emails and released them when the North Korea movie came out. And North Korea, like, physically isn't very threatening except to people in its very immediate neighborhood. But it pulled off this really elaborate hack, and it completely 100% worked exactly how they wanted it to. And there's also, like, I don't know how much you'd know much more than me, but reports that they've done like raids on bank accounts and various other like things like that. So yeah, it's definitely a tool. It's definitely a tool for places that otherwise might not have any kind of like competitive advantage.
Yeah, this is what the United States needs to wise up to, is that, great that you spend trillions of dollars every year on offense. Don't forget to do the defense work. Takes is one weakness, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question. I'm conscious of time. We've had so many questions here, and I want to try and get as many asked as possible. So the next one is from Joan, who is in here tonight. So we'll unmute her, and I think Joan has a question for you about RWRI.
Joan,
I'm here.
hello.
Hello.
Hey, Joan.
My question was, how do I get into RWRI? I have applied and I have not been accepted.
I think you can pretty much walk in anytime you like, Joan. Have you emailed Alicia?
Yes, I have.
I don't have any special access to this, by the way.
No,
but I'll try to remind Alicia.
Just tips. I was looking for a tip, like maybe I should stop talking on Twitter or something and not reveal who I actually am.
No. I think really it's just a question of, there's only so much space every Ruri, and especially since the pandemic. We used to do 3 a year, and now it's down to 2. So
But
hopefully you get in next time.
I also asked that almost as a way to break the ice. You had appeared to have a little anxiety about doing this when you were sweating, so I figured I'd break the ice and make a funny question.
Well, I wanted to get.
I thoroughly enjoyed this. I got goosebumps on everything that you were saying. The black swan, I realized, was the black swan. I thought was our response, but I realized, no, I shouldn't be surprised at all that we had a shitty response. Even though I thought we were prepared, I thought it was a black swan. The response was typical and should have been anticipated on my part, and I'm having trouble with that, but I learned that. And that's it. I'm hogging up time. Who's next?
Love you, Joan.
No.
Actually, I wanted to get Jesse.
Thanks.
Speaking of lighthearted, Jesse, are you there? You had a question about like lifting and barbells.
Oh yeah, I think that was Jesse. So yeah, let me just unmute you, and Jesse, man,
Hello.
you're on the air.
Yes.
Hey,
quick question for Trishank. Are you
Jesse from Canada?
Yes. Hello. Just echo what Joan said. This has been an awesome talk. So really enjoyable. I just have like this vision of Teslas like crashing all over the world simultaneously now. Anyways,
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about. Are you still hitting the barbell? Do you have access to a barbell out in Malaysia?
Fuck no. Unfortunately not. I tried negotiating with my landlady, i.e. my mother. She was absolutely against it. But I've been doing more prisoners body workouts.
I like it. Well, you can save the barbell for when you go back to New York, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been nice taking a break from it and doing different things for once. Barbells aren't everything. It's good. Don't get me wrong.
Totally.
Have you been developing a different kind of workout or style of workout since being out in Malaysia?
Oh man, my favorite one is the what they call the one-man punch workout. It's actually in the anime. You try to do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and 100 crunch-ups, right? Stomach crunches. And then you're supposed to go running for I forgot however many miles, which I don't do that. Just the sets of hundreds, doing it as fast as you can and as little sets as you can. That alone is brutal. You guys got to try it. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Like I think I saw
a little bit like
CrossFit
to me.
Okay, so let's change tack slightly. I think we've got a couple of questions around computer security and slightly more technical questions. So the next one we've got is from John. So over to you, John.
I'm not sure which question here. I think regarding the solar winds, I wondered what made it a successful hack. Meaning, I think you told us that they were able to compromise the compiler to inject code and everything that was compiled. I think that's what you said. And if not, what would you say allowed them to avoid detection from?
Oh. Trishank, did you get that question? It was a bit technical, and it was also
I did.
Perfect.
Yeah, so to quickly answer that, all you need to do, like I said earlier, is to find one weakness, right?
Mm-hmm.
The lesson of SolarWinds is not to focus on any one particular hole, like I said. Think about a weakness anywhere in the system. And why did they avoid detection for so long? Well, because people aren't always looking for the signals until it's too late. It's easy to find a signal after the fact, but like I said, for attackers, it's a much easier job. All you have to do is, like I said, the asymmetry is there, unfortunately. It's an arms race. Short answer.
Right on. And actually, I had one last question that I asked Mr. Joe Norman, our last QA, which is, if you had to give a piece of advice to the audience to answer the question, how can they be more anti-fragile? What might be an answer to that? And I believe his was eat more local food. Lift weights? Hell yeah.
There we go. There we go. So you eat more local food and you lift weights, you become doubly anti-fragile.
Yeah. That's a... Well, this goes to the thing that I've seen bandied about, that anti-fragile can actually be a health guide. And I think this is it. If you eat locally and lift weights, like, you'd be pretty healthy. So... Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it also makes you mentally stronger. I know we're running overboard, but the other thing about lifting weights is that it makes you mentally stronger. You're more prepared to do things like, trust me, when you lift weights and then you have to go to a challenging meeting or do a challenging programming task, those things look trivial in comparison. You're ready for anything.
I love that about it. No, it gives you confidence and it makes you feel good. 100%.
Oh no.
Gives you mental clarity.
Off again.
Trishank, can you hear us?
Okay, so Trishank, I'm afraid we're out of time now. As much as I'd like to keep asking you questions for hours, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on here doing a live Q&A. I know everyone in Fat Tony's thinks really, really highly of you, and just thank you so much for attending. And yeah, it's just been absolutely great to have you here.
Yeah, where can people find you? If we've lost him, we shall close.
Sorry,
guys. There you are.
Can you hear me? Sorry, crappy network.
All good.
No, but thanks. I really appreciate this. Thanks for the invitation. I'm honored that people were interested in what I had to say. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate this.